Welcome back to the show, and welcome to Steve Okun and our International News Review. Good morning, Steve. How are you today?
I'm good. You know, it's interesting. I got an email this week from Dan the Man, and I figured it was, you know, the logistics for the show today. But it was actually asking me to, you know, come and fill in on Monday for the Washington report with Elliot Danker and the team. So I'm glad to see Dan the Man's now working with the A team over at
Whoa. Firstly, I'll let that petty jive pass. I'm more concerned about Dan selling us out. What's going on, Dan? We're going to Chicago you if you carry on.
International News Review.
And that's the International News Review for today. Okay, back to me. Steve Okun joins us now for International News Review. Steve, China and ASEAN. China is now addressing ASEAN, saying that it's placing great importance on Southeast Asia and diplomacy and trying to build and shore up the relations with the countries here. This happened just this week. A move was announced by Xi Jinping. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, as an American, you've seen all the things that the U.S. is doing to build and grow its relations and raise the stakes with ASEAN. You know, you say in sports, you know, the other team has a coach too, and China is doing exactly what the United States is doing from China's perspective. It is going to engage more and more with ASEAN. It's upping the relationship from what they now refer to as a comprehensive strategic partnership, as opposed to just a strategic partnership. So it's going to be economic, but there's going to be some probably security cooperation that is going to be strengthened. And so, I mean, I think in some ways this is very good news for Southeast Asia, because you have the U.S. and China both seeing this as a critical place to do business, to be involved diplomatically, to be involved at least partially militarily. But that's also a challenge, of course, for ASEAN, because it's now going to be even more so in the competition between the U.S. and China.
That was exactly going to be my point, Steve, and something that you would cover at McClarty Associates. You know, where is Southeast Asia in all of this? Because it's a constant juggling act. I mean, even with something as seemingly, I was going to say banal, but it's not banal at all. You know, the situation with the tennis player that we'll get onto in a moment. You know, how do we talk about it? How do we comment about it? Do we talk about domestic policies in China? Do we not? So where is Southeast Asia in the middle of all of this, trying to constantly balance two very conflicting political and economic ideologies between the U.S. and China?
And I think part of that answer, Neil, is going to be how is it that China is going to approach Southeast Asia? And, you know, Xi Jinping at this summit to celebrate the 30th anniversary of China-ASEAN relations, he quoted a Chinese proverb. He said, "As distance tests a horse's strength, time reveals a person's heart." China was, is, and always will be ASEAN's good neighbor, good friend, and good partner. And later on, Xi Jinping went on to say, China will not bully smaller countries. So if China does take that approach, I mean, look, it's the biggest economic market. Obviously, it's the behemoth in the region. From a population perspective, China is going to do very well in Southeast Asia. But you have to see, what is it going to do in the South China Sea? Is it going to respect the claims of the Philippines and Brunei and Vietnam and in Malaysia there? Or is it going to be more confrontational as it's been recently? So if China plays its cards in a certain way, it has got a huge advantage over the United States, and it can be to the benefit of all of Southeast Asia, is that competition.
Steve, a week ago, we were talking about the fact that Chinese biggest tennis star, Peng Shuai, was missing or had at least not been heard from in some time. And this had occurred after she had posted on Twitter some disparaging comments about a Communist Party member and their physical relationship. She has now come out and did a video meeting with the International Olympic Committee president on Sunday last week, saying she's fine, everything's great. But this has not necessarily gone as smoothly as one might have thought.
Well, the question is this going to be a turning point for how global businesses interact with China, or is this going to be an anomaly? And historically, businesses have backed down when they have gotten involved in something that China did not want them to get involved in. And the NBA backed down when it started talking about Hong Kong. The EPL backed down and did not support one of its players when he was talking about the Uyghurs. The WTA is not going to back down. And you're not going to see Naomi Osaka or Serena Williams, say we're going to ignore women's rights. That here we have a woman who said she had been basically raped by a former very senior Chinese government officials. She's been censored in China. China has refused to talk about it. China's refused to investigate, which is what they want, her claims, to see if what she said is credible and how you're going to address it. And because China has clamped it down, even though there has been this, this video where she's surrounded by stuffed animals with the IOC, and the IOC doesn't ask any pertinent questions, other than how are you? It's going to have a real impact. And the question is, are other businesses going to follow suit and put their core principles, and this one, women's rights, against what the Chinese government does not want to have looked at?
Steve, the worrying thing for me and many commentators is the fact that the government official himself has not said anything, not come forward in any way to confirm, deny, refute anything. Do you think that will be the standard policy? They'll just wait for it to blow over? Or will there have to be some sort of official comment, rebuttal at some point?
Well, I think, look, I don't think this is going to change China, and I don't think this is going to change the WTA. And the WTA is going to have to decide, are they going to pull out of China? They held 9 tournaments there in 2019, pre-pandemic. They signed a 10-year deal to have the year-end finals there, used to be in Singapore. They signed a 10-year deal, and China put up $14 million in prize money a year. Is the WTA willing to walk away from that? It looks like they are. And now the question is going to be, as other issues come up from a social perspective, a human rights perspective, will other businesses follow more of we could call the Michael Jordan mid-1980s way of doing business, where he famously said, when asked to get involved in a Senate race to favor a Democrat in North Carolina, he turned it down. And he said, look, Republicans buy shoes too. And I stay out of politics. I stay out of social issues. He wouldn't do that anymore. And the question is, will businesses do that other than the WTA? Could be a real turning point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the WTA, a spokesperson on Monday said it was, quote, "It was good to see Peng Shuai in recent videos, but they do not alleviate or address the WTA's concern about her well-being and ability to communicate without censorship or coercion," unquote. We don't know. We don't know what her situation is. She was smiling. She was sitting there. Maybe she's fine, right? We don't know. We don't know what was going behind the scenes. Now, in this conversation, we have assumed the worst, but we honestly don't know. I mean, maybe she is fine. Maybe she's just at home. Maybe she did that post and regretted it and, was told to take it down, but she's actually okay and just kind of cooling her heels at home. It's so hard to know.
Yeah, but the issue, Glenn, the issue is not her safety necessarily. I mean, obviously that is a real issue for the for the WTA. But the issue is beyond her safety. The issue is she made what certainly seems to be a credible claim that a high-ranking former official forced her into a rape, basically, right, into non-consensual sex in over a longer period of time, and that needs to be investigated, and that you cannot shut down a woman's claim against a more powerful man, as used to happen in the United States, as used to happen in almost every country. Look, it still happens everywhere. It still happens where there's a huge power dynamic between women and men. And the WTA says, no, you have to address it. So it's not just, is she safe? It's not just, will she be okay? It's a broader issue that the WTA is going to get at. And that's the question, is if China's going to make people choose between China and the rest of the world, right? The rest of the world is a bigger market than China for almost everybody. And so it's certainly for sports leagues it is. And so the question is, are you going to have to choose between the rest of the world and China? The NBA didn't want to make that choice. EPL didn't want to make that choice. WTA seems to be making that choice. They're going down that road. And that's what's going to change things much more than just one person.
And just briefly, Steve, following on from Glenn's point, that's why I feel this is such a landmark case, because it is about the rest of the world here more than it is China, isn't it? Because we're dealing with a post-MeToo environment now where multinational corporations, innocent or guilty, have set up, have codified laws within the industries to say that, she has the right to be heard and the case has the right to be investigated. Innocent or guilty at this stage doesn't come into it, really. It's about, right, she said this.
It's about the investigation.
We have a duty now to investigate and take a course of action. And that's the problem that companies have right now, don't they, who deal in large sums of money with China.
Yeah, and most companies say, we follow the law where we operate. So when we operate in the U.S., we follow U.S. law. When we operate in Singapore, we follow Singapore law, even if it differs from U.S. or U.K. law, which it does in certain small but significant ways. And then in China, we follow Chinese law. And this isn't about Chinese law necessarily, though. This is right. Does a woman have the right to be heard? Does she have the right to be protected? Does she have the right to not be subject to such an imbalance of power? And that's very different than following the laws. And businesses, if they're going to have to get into that choice, it's going to be much more difficult for them. We're not there yet, but that's where we're going.
What do you, what are you hearing anything, whispers, silent conversations behind the scenes, whatever, from your business contacts or clients or potential clients? Is this particular issue resonating with them to the point that they are considering greater action, either to impact their China play in some way? Or are we not there yet?
We're not. Well, this is part of an evolution of what's been happening, what's been happening for businesses in deciding, what do we say about Hong Kong, if anything? What do we say about forced labor in Xinjiang, where we have sanctions against China from the United States and the UK, in others? So this is part of how do you do business in two different places? And you have government that is going to dictate what you can and can't do, but then you're going to have your customers who are going to dictate what you can and can't do. The United States right now, 67% of Americans have negative feelings towards China. That's up almost by a third from just a couple of years ago. And that number is consistent across a lot of Western democracies. I mean, the United States, you actually have Ted Cruz and AOC agreeing on China. It's probably the only thing they agree on. But you got the far left and the far right agreeing on China. So it is something that's been happening. You've got the potential Olympic diplomatic boycott from the U.S., from the U.K., from Australia, maybe from others. Is this going to put pressure on sponsors? This is just an acceleration of something businesses have been looking at for a while now.
Thank you very much for your time today. Looking good as always. Keep the old style going. By the way, one of the world's worst beers, right along with Pabst Blue Ribbon.
I didn't want to say. I didn't know what it was.
It's a terrible beer. It's a beer, old style. Yeah.
It's Croissant, I'm super looking forward to Monday morning, coming out of the Washington Report.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this off air with Dan. He might be dressed smartly today, but your betrayal will not be forgotten.
I think we may call
the revolution's begun.
Oh, he's found a voice. The proletariat has found a voice.
All right, Steve. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, bye-bye.